Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
What's up, my people? Happy Monday. Rachel V. Hill. Jim Merilatt should be shortly joining us. I believe so. I know he was coming from a meeting, so hopefully he'll be back. We got a ton to talk about, obviously, for the Broncos win over the Buccaneers. Finally, they look like the Denver Broncos. Finally, they look like an offense that Sean Payton is going to lead. Finally, Bo Nix somewhat looks like how he did in preseason, which is great to see. Tons to dive into. But I just want to do this because it's starting to go viral right now. Adam Schefter says that there are 3 quarterbacks that could make sense for Miami. Obviously, Miami lost their starting quarterback and Tua Tagovailoa due to a concussion. They don't know when he's going to return. So there's a lot of questions up in the air about that, and they have to make sure that they somewhat save their season. Skylar Thompson's just not going to be the guy for them down in Miami. Great as a backup, but just can't be the starter for them if they want to make a push for the playoffs. I do see James Merilatt hanging out in the back. Let's bring him in. Hello, James. How are you?
I'm good, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. Did your meeting go well?
It did. It's been one after another, so apologize I'm a little bit late.
No, all good. I was just talking about the fact that Adam Schefter says that there are 3 quarterbacks that make sense for Miami. We'll get into the Broncos, but it's interesting because there's 2 connections to the Broncos. Zach Wilson, pick up the phone, right? We saw a lot of potential out of him in the preseason and training camp. And then Russell Wilson. Do you think that Miami needs to make a move, and would you go for either one of those guys?
Yeah, they definitely need to make a move. We saw yesterday that offense without Tua is just non-existent. So they need to make a move. I think either one of those quarterbacks would make a ton of sense for them. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked about it last week. I brought up the Zach Wilson idea with Josh Stover, one of the shows I was sitting in on, and they said, you can't trade him. It's like, why? Why not parlay him into some picks? If everything goes well, Zach Wilson will never play a game for the Broncos, ever. Sure. So if you can turn that into a draft pick that you can use, they swapped like a 6th and a 7th or whatever when they got him. Like basically they gave up nothing. So if you're able to get, what if Miami will give you a 3rd round pick for him, a day 2 pick? Like jump at that. That's a very savvy move. Sean Payton will have rehabbed Zach Wilson without him ever having to play a game for the Broncos. That'd be pretty impressive. That would be.
I agree. Okay, but let's say your boy, Russell Wilson, is also in the mix. If you're Miami, are you looking like, okay, Zach makes a little bit more sense. He's a little bit younger, not dealing with injuries. Or do you say, Russell Wilson, he's won some Super Bowls?
I think if you're Miami, it all depends on what you think Tua's future is. Mm-hmm. If it's just this year and how do you get through this season, Russ is a better option, right? Mm-hmm. He's a more accomplished quarterback. But if you're looking at it saying, hey, we got to move on from Tua, Zach Wilson is somebody that could be your long-term answer, right? He's young enough. Obviously, he's got a ton of talent. He went number 2 overall for a reason. So then you're going Zach. If you think Tua is headed for retirement, I think you call the Broncos and make that move. Because, again, he's not just the quarterback for you in 2024. Yeah. He's probably the quarterback. At least he gives you an option for 2025 and beyond. I don't know that Russ is gonna be that.
It's been super debated on what Tua should do, right? Everybody's kind of saying, if it was me, I would retire. Teddy Bridgewater's talked a lot about it. A lot of other analysts. I'm just curious your position on Tua's still relatively young, but he's obviously dealt with some massive concussions. If it was you, what would you do?
I would retire. Mm-hmm. If it was my son, I would tell him he needs to stop playing football.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. And it's like, you want to be out there so much and it's addicting in a good way, the competition of it and doing it, but that's just not something to mess around with. And what's tricky about it is, right, like if you break your arm or something, like you can see it. It's the physical ailment. Once the concussions go away and you feel fine, and then you're telling yourself, but I'm not going to go play football because of this, like that would be hard to wrap your head around. But with all the things we've seen and the CTE things and guys having a ton of problems later in life, like I wouldn't mess around with it. No way.
Which is it's so unfortunate because Tua is obviously such a great quarterback. There's been so many great moments. So yeah, tough situation down there in Miami. We'll move on to the Broncos now though, because they finally get a win. Holy smokes. We finally saw Bo Nix look like what everybody was hoping. I need to know, James, are you going to give Sean Payton his roses this week due to his game plan to beat the Bucs?
Yeah. And I think it started right from the jump. And it's funny. I was talking with Mark this morning because I was sitting in for Stoke on the morning show. Yeah. And back in the day, the Broncos always took the football when they won the toss, and they went down and scored and took a 7-0 lead on whoever their opponents were, and they were playing, the opponent was playing catch up from the jump.
Yep.
But that's not the case anymore. Bill Belichick has created this middle 8 minutes, the last 4 minutes of the first half, and the first 4 minutes of the second half, where teams try to score twice without the other team touching the ball. I get it, but it's like it happens so infrequently. Like, I just think it's silly. I think it's a much better idea to get the football. If you like your plan, go out there and, if you can march right down the field and be up 7-0, which is what they did. He had a great plan. His script was perfect to start with. And once they got the lead, confidence was soaring. And, you could just tell that they were playing catch up literally from the get-go, and Denver dominated from the start. So, yeah, I give Sean Payton a ton of credit for it.
Do you think that's something that we're going to see more often? If they win the coin toss, they're going to be like, yeah, we'll take the ball. Because, right, everybody's always, we'll defer to the second half. We'll defer to the second half. But I actually like the aggression of being like, no, we're going to do it, and we're going to get up ahead early.
Yeah, and especially since it worked, right? Like, coaches are superstitious. It's why I'm now convinced Justin Fields is going to remain the quarterback in Pittsburgh. They're not going to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Change it.
Now listen, if they win the toss in New York and they take the ball and they go 3 and out and they give Aaron Rodgers the ball at midfield on their first possession, he may change his mind. It may be only something he does twice, but yeah, if they win the toss on Sunday, I would expect them to take the football. I love that approach. And again, everybody's tired of hearing about my 12-year-old football team, but if we win the toss, we take the ball every time. We want to get on offense. We want to go out there and score. We want to take the lead. And then it helps all phases, helps the defense, helps the offense, and the other team is, starting to panic a little bit. So yeah, take the football and go score.
No, I'm with you. I loved it. I loved how they came out. I loved how they used the height that they have, right? Getting Courtland Sutton involved early was great. Something we haven't seen from the previous 2 weeks. What else did you like about the offense this week?
Well, they were able to run the football. I mean, the best part about the game, or the formula that they discovered, was I looked at my phone when the game was over. It was 1:45. So the game was less than 3 hours, and that's because they ran the football. They had 28 runs, 36 passes. Like, in today's NFL, that's about as balanced as you're going to see. And with Tyler Beatty, now we're back to Beatty, right? That's what he said.
Bidet.
There's a clip of him in the locker room after the game saying it was Beatty.
Yeah, but I think it's Bidet.
Well, he knows. You would think he's the source. Anyhow, I'm calling him Beatty because that's a much better name. So until he says it's Bidet, I'm going with Beatty.
That has to be the first question somebody asks him in the locker room this week is, can you just pronounce your name for us real quick?
Yeah, it should be question number 1. I like the fact that they were able to run the football. That was huge. Having a little bit of balance. Javonte wasn't good. Jaleel, other than the touchdown run, wasn't good. But I thought that was exceptional. Look, and Bo Nix was fine. Yeah. He was fine. Yeah. He wasn't great. He managed the game well. He avoided the big mistakes, right? Yeah. But he also didn't do anything that Jarrett Stidham couldn't do. He didn't.
Oh, James.
What? It's true.
You're not wrong, but to point it out is interesting. I think this is the exact same thing for me last year when I called out Russ after they beat the Chiefs, and everyone got so mad at me because I was like, he's not a top 5 quarterback. He didn't play exceptional. This is the exact same moment right now. Okay.
Well, listen, you just said I'm not wrong. I'm not. I'm right about this. He played fine. He played fine. But the avoided mistakes was the big thing. That was the big thing.
Just drastic improvement from weeks 1 and week 2. So you got to give him his roses on that front.
He threw the ball downfield a little bit more, right?
Yes.
So that was good. That was a step in the right direction. He didn't get sacked at all. So they avoided negative plays almost from the jump. Yep. I thought it was good. He managed the game very well. But again, did he wow me? No, I don't need to be wowed though. But there was nothing that happened in that game that Jarrett Stidham couldn't do. And the way this defense is played, their defense is better than 1 and 2. If Russell Wilson was the Broncos quarterback, they'd be 3-0.
Oh my gosh, James!
The way the defense played in Seattle, scoring 4 points with the 2 safeties, giving them the ball twice at the 25-yard line.
The one thing you said though is that he didn't get sacked because he can move. There were plenty of opportunities where he came close to almost getting sacked, but because of his legs, he was able to get out of it. That one play, what was it, in the third quarter, where he still ran for 10 yards? Russ could never have done that.
The Broncos gave up 7 points yesterday. They win that game with any quarterback. They do.
Okay, but to put him in the same thing and say Russ could have done it, like, come on.
Russ, they'd be 3-0 with Russ.
Oh my! I'm gonna leave this to the comments section and just let him absolutely.
I'm just telling you, they would have beat Pittsburgh, who scored 13 points against the Broncos. They win that game, and the way the defense set them up in point blank range twice, Seattle, they win that game with a competent quarterback. And look,
maybe
he was competent yesterday. That was good. That's a step in the right direction. He was competent yesterday.
Maybe the difference is we're not giving the Broncos defense enough credit, right? Like maybe this is a really good defense, right? We've all been talking about, they're good, but maybe this is a really good defense, and maybe they can help a rookie QB and possibly get him to the playoffs. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, right? They're still 1-2, but we saw a more competent team out there, a more confident team as well. So who knows what the future holds?
Well, what's amazing about it is a calendar year ago, this defense gave up 70 points to the Dolphins, and now they're playing playing the way they are. Which, look, they were great yesterday. They got 7 sacks, six different guys got to Baker. They're able to get pressure with only bringing 4. Right? They don't have to blitz to get pressure. So if that front 4 can continue to play that well, they're going to be a good defense all season long. And I wasn't sure that they would be better than they were a year ago. You lose Justin Simmons, you lose Kareem Jackson, you lose Josie Jewell. None of those guys are, world beaters by any means, but I wasn't sure they had upgraded and replaced them with anybody that was even as good as they were. And I'm still not sure they have actually, but they're so much better up front that it doesn't really matter.
No, I'm with you. Well, last week, I believe on Wednesday, I did one of my 10 observations from the game against Pittsburgh. And I'm like, where the heck is Brandon Jones? Feels like guy has been irrelevant, right? You have huge shoes to fill. I expect some big things out of you. And finally this week, we obviously saw the 2 big plays. And it was like, oh, there he is. Great to see you, Brandon Jones. Nice to meet you.
He was all over the field. Didn't it feel like there's 3 guys out there wearing number 22? It's like, oh my gosh, he's everywhere. Yes. So no, he had a great game. You got to give credit to VJ, right? His defense is playing really, really well to the point where, if this continues, VJ is going to be in the conversation for head coaching jobs at the end of the season.
Isn't it fascinating, though, how you can be so good as a coordinator and yet you cannot be great as a head coach? I mean, I feel like Josh McDaniels is kind of the perfect example, right? Hurricane Josh was a head coach, but when he was an offensive coordinator, he was a guru and everybody loved what he was able to draw up. And you obviously got to give credit to Belichick, too. But it's crazy how it can be so different, because that's how I look at VJ. You can be a really good defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, we've clearly seen you struggle.
Yeah, I don't know that he got a real fair shake here. I mean, he was undermined by the front office so much. I mean, the TJ Ward moment is just the quintessential one where he comes off the practice field and he didn't know TJ Ward had been cut. The media informed him. I mean, that was pretty bad.
I wasn't in the media during that point, so that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was on, I think it was Labor Day. I think it was Labor Day weekend. But anyhow, I mean, it was just he didn't have any power. He didn't have any say. John was calling the shots. Yeah. So, that job, though, is there's so much more than just X's and O's, right? When you're a coordinator, you're just worried about football. Yep. When you're the head coach, you're worried about so many other things, and you're dealing with so many other issues that, yeah, it's a different skill set. But I think VJ will be a really good head coach. I do. I think he's got a lot of those skills. He just didn't get a chance to show them here when he was head coach.
Well, there was a lot of winning list teams going into this week, a lot of teams that end up winning. So just like the Broncos do. Let's move on to the running back position, though, because I feel like this has been one of the hot topics that people have been talking about. Is it time to move Javonte Williams down on the depth chart?
Yes.
Oh, it kills me to say. I feel so bad for him, but I agree.
I mean, I'd love for Javonte to be back to his previous form. Yeah. He's just not. And not only is he ineffective as a runner, and then you putting the ball on the ground,
I know
you just can't do it. And they were so much better with Tyler Beatty in there. They just were. So
we need to figure out his name.
If he doesn't start in New York on Sunday, something is wrong.
Do you think he will? That's the question, right? We can all say it's time for Javonte to move over, but will Sean Payton actually do that?
And this isn't a one game thing. It's been all 3 games this year. It goes all the way back. I think the last time he averaged more than 4 yards a carry in a game was week 11 last year. It's in Cecil's column today at denversports.com. So, I just think it's time, right? His injury was 2 years ago. It was week 4 of the 2022 season. I thought it was amazing that he was even on the field last year, let alone didn't miss he was ready to go for the opener.
Yep.
But at this point, it's not a league for sentimentality. It's just not. It's a very cold business, harsh, cold business. And the reality is he's just not an effective running back at this point.
Well, and for running backs especially, right? Like the rotation on running backs is so frequent. So I just feel for him. One of the things about actually being able to watch the game on TV is they show you those close-up shots of players on the sidelines. When you're at the game, you don't get to see those moments. Yeah. But it was just like crushing to see him down there. And you could tell that it was like, this is over. Like, I don't know. Just in his facial expressions, like so frustrated and so sad. And I was just like, fought back through all of this, and something is not clicking with this offense. I feel
it's sad. It's a bummer. Nobody wants to see it go that way. Everybody was rooting for him, but that only goes so far. And now that they have found somebody who seems to have given him a spark, and look, the fact that this team has so few playmakers, that hasn't changed because they had one win. Yeah. If you find somebody that can give a little spark to the offense, you can't afford to not have them on the field. They need all the spark they can get. And Beatty, so I'm going with for now. Beatty, he certainly provided it.
He's fun to watch for sure. Young gun, obviously getting out there. It's like I still wish Audric Estime, and I'm going to be excited to see when he comes back. But it feels like you have to really lean into the younger guys. We'll see, of course, if they do that. Broncos stand on the East Coast for this entire week, so I won't have the opportunity to go out to practice. Andrew Mason and Cecil Lammey will be out there, which will be good to get updates from them. But what are you looking for now that we finally saw a solid game plan? We saw this Broncos team be the ones that we were all hopeful to see. How do you go in there to the Jets? Because obviously they're going to change up a lot of things now that you got to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the big thing is whether or not this is sustainable, right? Like they found a formula yesterday. Yep. Can they do it over and over and over again? Can they pressure Aaron Rodgers while only bringing 4? Yeah. Then they'll have a chance to slow down the Jets because, a quarterback like Rodgers, if you have to blitz him, he's going to make you pay. If you can't get pressure on him, he's really going to make you pay. Yep. So can we see that again? Was that a fluke or is that the norm? If that can be the norm, all right, then they got a shot out there. I think what they did offensively is very sustainable. Mm-hmm. It's 36 passes, 28 runs. It's roughly that kind of ratio again. Yep. Not asking Bo Nix to do too much, avoiding turnovers and avoiding interceptions in the end zone and things like that. Yeah, there was nothing fluky about the win yesterday. Yeah. But I want to see this team do it over and over and over again. What yesterday told me, though, was, okay, it took the option of this season being a total disaster off the table. Like, if they'd have been 0-3, staring on 0-4, we'd be on here right now talking like, man, is this team going to win, 3 games, 4 games? Like, are they going to have the number 1 overall pick? Yep. That kind of talk, I think, is gone based on the way they played yesterday. But Sunday is a tipping point game because a week from today, if they beat the Jets, we're going to be sitting here talking, is this a playoff team? Like, could they be playing on Wild Card Weekend? If they lose, we're going to be saying, all right, 1-3, can they hit the over? That's it. That's going to be the conversation. So it's a huge game for, still being September.
Well, and you have to wonder too, if I don't like to call it a fluke game in the NFL because, right, you're all professionals. Like, you show up every single week to do this. But with all the talk about how the Steelers defensive backs were, making fun of Bo Nix and the game plan for him, other teams hear that talk, right? Did Tampa Bay essentially go in there and be like, oh, yeah, this is going to be an easy game, and you just got caught off guard a little bit? Because I think Tampa Bay is a really good team. They obviously went into Detroit where they're able to get a massive win over there. So I always wonder, and I feel like, we saw really good and we did see improvement, but it's what version of Tampa Bay did we see? Because, Todd Boyles came out and was like, we got outcoached and we got outplayed.
Yeah, and they did, and it was a classic letdown game, right? In hindsight, they're coming off of that big game in Detroit, a team that the Lions have Super Bowl aspirations, and they're not crazy. Like, if they're in the Super Bowl, it won't surprise any of us. Yep. And they were up for that game, ready to go. It's this emotional high, and then they come back and they're home. They got 0-2 Denver with a rookie quarterback, classic overlook it letdown game, and they got punched in the mouth early and just were staggered and couldn't recover from it. So I don't think the Buccaneers are as bad as they looked yesterday.
Mhm.
Broncos caught him at a good time. Hey, and look, that's not taking anything away from Denver. They still had to go out and do it, but I actually think it turned out to be a pretty good spot for them coming off that Detroit win for Tampa.
All right, let's talk about your Buffs because people are making fun of them. People
Why?
are making fun of them.
Why?
The student section storming the field.
Oh, people who like to tell other people how to celebrate are ridiculous. I mean, what kind of a curmudgeon says you shouldn't celebrate if you're a college kid and go on the field? My son was out on the field, and I'm damn proud of it. I got a great picture of it. It was awesome.
Okay, but also, are we going to run onto the field every single time we have an overtime victory?
Maybe. You won a game on a Hail Mary that sent it to overtime.
Trust me. Insane.
And win it in overtime. Like, yeah, you're going to celebrate that. Like, it was so crazy. It was so improbable that, gosh, for people to get on students for celebrating being like, if you were there, you were a CU fan, you wouldn't have gone on the field?
Oh, I went on the field for much less games. Let me just be real. In my college days. So a Hail Mary pass and the way it happened, yes, I probably would have stormed the field. But I do think a lot of people, because of how Boulder portrays themselves, it's like act like you've been there before, but it's true for the team. I kind of get that a little bit, but like for the fan base, you're so caught up in the moment, right? You've been standing out there freezing in the rain. Was your son there the whole time?
Yeah.
Good for him. I mean,
it was one of the 25 greatest sporting moments ever on Colorado soil.
Like, wow.
I mean, and
you weren't there though?
And you're there for it, and you're not going to go celebrate. Like, and I'm not talking. And I get it. Like, it wasn't like it was an AFC championship game or whatever. But like the improbability of pulling it out and winning that way, it was an amazing moment, and people wanted to celebrate it. I literally am rolling my eyes at people that are complaining about that. Like, just get off your high horse. I mean, what a bunch of curmudgeons.
Twitter was fascinating yesterday with it being all about that. And the whole jersey thing was hysterical too, right? Both wearing white jerseys. Who's going to change? Who's going to be able to do this? Fascinating. Last one though for you on the Buff side of things is I'm just really curious too about how you think they're actually going to do in Big 12 play. Like, right? Was this a fluke game for CU and they actually just showed up and, like Shadur said, threw the ball up and got answered the prayers? Or are they actually going to be competitive?
I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to play in a lot of close games.
Yeah.
And they have, a sensational player in Travis Hunter. They have a sensational quarterback in Shadur. So if you're in close games and you got a great quarterback, you got a chance to pull out a lot of those kind of games. So, they probably need to not give up 100-yard kick returns. That would certainly help. But no, I think they're going to be competitive. Like Mike and I were going over their schedule today.
Yeah.
Utah and Oklahoma State are the only two games you look at and go, but they almost beat Utah last year without Shadur. So I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be in every game. Doesn't mean they're going to win them all by any means, but they're going to be in every game.
What's crazy about the CU schedule is I think that's one of the games that everybody circles, right? Every single team's like, oh, this is one of those games, right, where we're going to give our A game. Like, they didn't win a championship last year, but they're still that team that kind of has a chip on their shoulder 24/7. Just crazy, the prime effect. Really, it is. It's so fun, but at the exact same time, I do feel for him a little bit. When Prime's talking about how everybody is like smack talking him and such, I'm like, I get it. But you guys also, the watch thing, like you can't do those things and not expect people to talk about it.
Nope. I feel no sympathy for the fact that the Buffs are circled on everybody's schedule. They did that to themselves. It's why I don't like, trash talking and being that brash and all the rest of it. Like, you basically take away the ability to sneak up on anyone.
True.
And they learned the lesson last year because when they went into Oregon, they were 3-0. They were the talk of college football. At every show in the country was in Boulder the weekend before for CUCSU. And Oregon was like, they were ready for the Buffs. Their fans were ready. The coaching staff was ready. The players were ready. Like, CU doesn't sneak up on anybody.
Yeah.
That's their own fault.
But they're relevant. Last one. I know I said last.
They're must-see TV.
Yeah. Shadur or Travis Hunter? Who would you pick if you had the number one overall pick?
Well, it depends. Do I have a quarterback? If I don't have a quarterback, I take Shadur. That's the most important position in all of sports. If I have a quarterback, I'm taking Travis Hunter, and he is winning the Heisman Trophy, by the way. He's going to win the Heisman.
He's insane.
He's
actually a freak of nature.
We've never, at least in modern football, we've never seen anything like it. in the past. We'll probably never see it again, right? Like, think about all the amazing athletes that have been in college football, and nobody's ever been able to do this. It's remarkable, and I don't know that if they don't win another game, he's still going to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, agreed. He's been insane. He's so fun to watch. Even as the issue Ram, I can say that he's a blast. But anyway, lots of really good comments coming in. So thank you to everybody for that as well. People still giving you crap about the run statement, but that'll end it on a Monday, James. Always appreciate you so much for hanging out with us. Everybody in the comments, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. It'll be James Palmer on with me. It's like a double James every single week. So come chill with us, and we'll see you guys then. Bye, everybody.